What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns back with you. Midweek episode of the Fishman. Join us in a little bit, but still trying to turn the page. One of those weeks, Johnsy, where the look back lasts a little bit longer before you flip the page and look ahead.
I ran an errand early this morning, stopped in the Whole Foods to pick up something very quickly. And my friend Dave, who works there, big Bears fan, talks to me all the time, was like, "What the hell was that, man? Like, what was that like? Like, what do you think?" I'm like, "Well, to be honest with you, like I said to myself in the press box when the Hail Mary was completed, like, oh my God, like these are things that linger. Those are plays that deserve to be overanalyzed for days and lead to more questions. And then more questions, then more answers to debate over before the next game. That's how it works, really."
Yeah, so we're going to discuss a little bit of the fallout before we bring in Kevin. Of course, follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. You can read Johnsy and Kevin's film review in The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. And you should also get the merch. All of our merch, including that shirt Johnsy's wearing right now, at hogeandjahns.com. It's all there for you. Always love seeing that out at games. And this weekend, I'll be in Arizona with the CHGO crew. So I'm sure we'll see some Hoge and Jahns merch out there. Love to see it. So I'm going to start with this, Johnsy. I spent all of last week talking about how this could easily be a defining game of the season. We, on CHGO last week, kind of did a mid-season check-in on our preseason predictions in terms of wins and losses. And when we went through the rest of the schedule, it kept coming back to this Washington game. Like, that might be the difference between them making the playoffs or not making the playoffs, or winning 9 games, winning 10 games, winning 10 games, winning 11 games, like whatever it is. It seemed like this game was going to be defining for many reasons, not just the storylines that were involved. The head coach you didn't hire, the offensive coordinator you didn't hire, the quarterback you didn't draft.
That's part of it too. That's what makes it so defining, I think, as well.
100%. So for me, and I've been thinking about this over the last 3 days, this just feels like the game we're going to be talking about in December, in January, in 2015, 2025, 2026. Like, it just feels like one of those. We've had these games before that we always look back on, and it just seems like, and so, because I've been kind of internally struggling with this a little bit, like, how much more can we talk about this game? How much more should we be talking about Matt Eberflus and the fallout of all this stuff? But it's like, nah, this still matters on Wednesday, and it's probably going to matter next week and the week after that and 2 months from now.
Absolutely. What's standing out to me, at least this week, is you're having another conversation where team leaders, team captains, in this case on defense now, it's not the offensive leaders going to Shane Waldron and being like, "What's going on? Let's fix this." Now you have defensive leaders. Kevin Byard, your veteran safety, signing free agency. Jalen Johnson, your best player, arguably you're one of your best player on the team. Your standout cornerback, your all-pro cornerback. Publicly questioning the decision-making of the head coach and relaying some of the conversations that they've had with Matt Eberflus. While I see it as a positive that relationship exists between player and coach, to me, I don't know, Adam, I've covered sports long enough to know that there's some red flags in this as well. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but to hear what Matt Eberflus said about that second to last play, and then hear Kevin Byard's response to that, like, that strikes me as, I mean, you could call it a positive, but it's also problematic, right?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think we have that Kevin Byard audio to play for you here in a minute, but I think it's healthy. Like, I like hearing that Kevin Byard's like, not just saying, I'm not just saying this through the media. Like, I said this to coach. And we've heard about these leadership council meetings. They happen every single week. And it does sound like there is open dialogue between the leaders on the team and the coaching staff on things that they feel like could be done better. And I like that. Like, if you can't just have one-way conversations here, especially in the NFL, right? Like, these are all professionals. They're professional coaches, they're professional players. And so if it can't just be a one-way, coaches yelling at players for everything they do wrong all the time. Coaches F up too. We certainly saw that on Sunday. And so I think it's only fair to have the players also offer their opinions back, because they're not dumb. They've been playing football for a long time. They know when it's right to defend the sideline. And it's football 101 on that specific play that we're talking about here with Kevin Byard. The concerning thing to me, though, is are the coaches, and we don't know the answer to this, is Matt Eberflus going, yeah, you're right, like, I screwed that up, that's on me, because he's not doing it publicly in the media. I would feel a lot better about all of this if Flus had come out Monday and been like, yeah, we probably Kevin Byard's right, we probably should have defended the sideline there, or you know what, Jalen Johnson's right, probably should have called timeout. It probably would have been smart to call timeout. We had timeouts to use, and honestly, I think the fans would respect the head coach more if he just did that. And so I don't and we've dealt with this with coaches in the past. Mark Trestman did it when he defiantly defended kicking on second down in Minnesota. Matt Nagy did it when he defiantly said, I didn't come here to run the I formation, when he was absurdly throwing the ball with a lead against the Chargers. I don't understand why this keeps happening, but there seems to be this like disconnect of coaches being willing to just be like, yeah, I effed up.
I think you hope that it's behind the scenes, that it's happening behind the scenes. I imagine in some respect that it is, but I think at this point it's beyond a boiling point with fans, and at least from the media perspective, where you'd like to hear some of that, I messed up. Some of the accountability, the lack of accountability that you're getting from the Bears head coach. Like, he might say it today. We're talking at 9:30 Central Time here right now. He's got a press conference at 12:30 after they switched it to a closed walkthrough, which is another kind of curious thing to begin with, at least to open up this week's practice schedule. But to hear him triple down on it, and then hear Kevin Byard's response to it. So let's play that real quickly. So we're talking about the second and last play, the quick pass to Terry McLaurin. He gets out of bounds. We all know how this plays out. It sets up the Hail Mary from Daniels into the end zone. Matt Eberflus tripled down on his stance that it really doesn't matter, which is strange to say in a sense, because it did matter. Different conversations were being had in the Commander's locker room. So that sets up this response from Kevin Byard.
How could that, from your perspective, how could that play have been defended better?
Yeah, I mean, I had a discussion with Flus about it. He has his feelings about it. I think it's a lot of different ways you can defend those plays. Me personally, I think that in that scenario, possibly could have had the corners pressed up there, because they just ran two out cuts, and the play was called just to get a couple more yards to throw it down the field. If you had the guys pressed up, maybe they convert to verticals and they actually run the Hail Mary. But even if they do that and our corners run with those guys, he doesn't have I'm not saying he doesn't have the arm strength, but you think about the ball maybe landing 10 yards shorter, and it may be a little different. I'm not saying that we don't know. It's always, looking back at it, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But at the end of the day, things happen the way it happened. Could we have sent pressure? Maybe, you know what I mean? But he made the call, and, that's what it was.
When I heard Kevin Byard talking about this, I immediately thought back to last year in Cleveland, when the players were saying the exact same things about Justin Jones being in coverage. I think it was, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 15 against Joe Flacco and the Browns. They blitz. I don't mind the pressure, but the pressure that Matt Eberflus called put Justin Jones, your 3-technique defensive tackle, into coverage. And I felt in the moment in the locker room, some players were frustrated by that. I vividly remember, I think it was Jalen Johnson saying it's the call. We have to play the call. Just like Kevin Byard said, that's the call. You play the call. That was Matt Eberflus' decision then. This was Matt Eberflus' decision now. So I think it goes back to what we were talking about. I think we've all reached a point where everyone wants to hear from the head football coach say, I messed up in this moment. I need to be better.
And I don't want to read too much into what Byard said, but when he starts his answer with Flus has his feelings on this, to me, that was an indication that after Byard, said what he had to say about his opinion, like that Flus still didn't agree. And that matches with what he said in his press conferences, as well as on the radio Monday morning. So, yeah, it's at minimum, it's very, very interesting that you have the players feel so comfortable coming out and questioning some of this stuff. And again, I don't think it's a bad thing as long as that dialogue is really two ways, like, inside the building. So I don't know. It's
like part of me, knowing how coaches act and knowing how GMs want this to be, I'm sure they would like some of these thoughts to stay in house. You don't want this type of conversation coming out publicly like all the time. This is now multiple weeks where we've had conversations like this. Earlier in the season, it was about the offense. It still should be about the offense. We'll get to that later with Kevin Fishbain, but it's not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing either, because it means something is off, something went wrong. There seems to be some disagreement where the leaders, again, 2 captains in Kevin Byard and Jalen Johnson, feel the need to discuss this.
And I got to be honest, I honestly think the Jalen Johnson thing matters more. And the reason is this. Oh, there's a couple of reasons. But one, he's been here longer. He's been through a lot of shit here. They've been through a lot of losing. And I am guessing that Jalen Johnson and many other players on the team certainly feel like they should be 5-2 right now, if not 6-1. And I'm guessing they're frustrated by that. And so, and then you also throw in the context that Flus and Jalen didn't exactly hit it off when Flus got here. There was the benching in the summer, moving him down to the 2s to try to send a message, the whole hits principle that Jalen has, come out in public. He talked about, took him a while to get used to, but at the same time, he's ascended to one of the best corners in the league in this defense. So it's not necessarily any indication that this is, some type of rough relationship or anything. I'm not trying to insinuate that, but what I am trying to say is, the clock's ticking for a lot of these players. They have very short windows in the prime of their careers to win. And so when games like this happen and they feel like they weren't put in the best position to have success, which is the job of the coaching staff, frustrations start to come up.
I think where my concern would be if I work for the Bears, where you have a situation where you have veteran players questioning the decision-making of your coach. Now, that's fair. No, you're not going to be in agreement all the time. Like you said, a healthy conversation. Healthy conversations are important to have, really, with any organization beyond sports and football. But this can't continue to be a conversation, because I think if you have players continuously questioning your coach, your coaching staff, and this applies to both sides of the ball, questions lead to concerns, then those concerns lead to a lack of confidence from your players. And once that happens, Adam, you and I know what happens after that.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from that. It takes a long time for that to be turned around, if even possible. We've covered stories like that. We've seen how things kind of spiral once those questions turn into concerns and then into a lack of confidence. And then changes come, Adam. I put this in my takeaways column. If anything, if these crazy head-scratching losses become a theme again, because there was 3 of them last year, if they become a theme again, I think Ryan Poles has some serious decisions to make as these losses play out if they continue.
All right. Well, let's bring in Kevin Fishbain, Fishman, into the conversation. Kevin, the White Sox have a new man. No. Speaking of changes, I don't know how much of that conversation you were hearing on our end, but just about the fallout. Kind of, I just think it's. Let's start with this. Actually, let's transition to this. Big week it seems like for the Bears. To whether there's any cracks in the foundation or doubting of the coaching staff or whatever, they got to get this thing flipped around. Interesting. The Bears are only going to have a walkthrough today. Not a full practice. Now, I do have some thoughts on this, but Kevin, did that get your brain, moving at all when you heard yesterday it was just going to be a walkthrough?
No, actually.
Okay.
Because Flus has done this before. I don't remember exactly when it was last season, but he did it. He's done it before where they've decided to do a walkthrough on Wednesday. They did it in London. The other thing to remember is Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Bill Murray, Daryl Taylor, DJ Moore. Is that it? Those all the guys that went to the blue tent on Sunday?
Montez Sweat.
So
My
Montez
counter
Sweat.
to that, though, I understand what you're saying about the injuries. My counter to that is that means it's even more important that the backups get more practice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you watched
Yeah.
the game on Sunday. I know you were there, but Karan Amagaji looks like he needs to practice more.
Or does he not? Because Larry Borum is going to step in.
Oh, could he have on Sunday? Yeah, like I don't want to make a big deal out of this because honestly, to your point, they've done this before. In fact, they just did this before their last game that they won. They didn't practice on Wednesday in London. And in a little bit of a schedule quirk, I talked to Cole Komet about this yesterday on the 85. It's nice to have the bye week in the middle of this, but this is a little bit of a weird scheduling quirk to go London, 3 straight road games, London, DC, Arizona. You're spanning a pretty significant amount of mileage there between London and Phoenix. Now, you do have a bye week in the middle of it, but everybody knows, we know this from traveling too. You are more tired when you fly home, when you have to deal with, early flights or whatever. And even though they charter, they're flying after games and getting home really late from some of these, especially late afternoon games. It'll be the same thing coming back from Arizona this weekend. So I get it. I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but it does seem notable.
Yeah, I mean, the timing's kind of weird just because of everything that happened. Do you think, and not to shout out a rival podcast, that they need more time to prepare for the fact that CHGO is going to be in Arizona and that is messing with their game prep?
Like what they're preparing for us? Like
Just knowing you guys are all going to be there.
Well, the last time we were all there, they beat the crap out of the Jaguars. So
True.
They should be happy that we're.
Did you get Adam Jahns to commit to going to any Chuggo parties?
He has not given me any details. Let this be officially known at 9:41 a.m. I have not gotten one single detail.
Okay, well, I don't know where you guys are staying, but it's 6:30 p.m. Arizona time on Saturday night. We will be at Poor Decisions in Scottsdale, Arizona, where we will make some poor decisions. I may also walk down to the Badger Bar in Scottsdale and watch Wisconsin lose to Iowa.
Poor Decisions was Johnsy's nickname in college, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot.
And then this one is one you don't have an excuse for, especially if I remember where the media park at this stadium. Unless that's changed. But guys know the Westgate area right next to the stadium. John's covered many hockey games within steps of where we're going to be.
They're not there anymore, though.
I know, but you
Okay.
were there. You know
Many
where I'm
times.
talking about. There's a nice fountain. There's plenty of restaurants, and we will be at Salt Tacos and Tequila right there. If you guys know where the fountain is, walking distance, it's right, this huge entertainment complex that Kevin Warren apparently does not want to build next to their new stadium. We will be right there at Salt Tacos and Tequila with the tailgate, and you guys are more than welcome to stop by. We're going to be there starting at 10 a.m. So plenty of time to come by, Johnsy.
I can't believe I turned this into a CHGO promotion.
Yeah. Nice joke, Kev.
Do you guys want my fun fact?
Go ahead.
All right. So,
No.
I try to find historical things, right? Last time, right? So today I was kind of punching in. Last time a team lost on a Hail Mary when a player was out of position. And it was Sunday.
Wait, are those the key words there?
Commanders
Players
on,
out of position? Are those the key words there?
Yeah.
How do you look
Okay.
that up?
I just punched it in my little thing, and I found out it was the Chicago Bears on Sunday lost the Commanders on a Hail Mary. The player out of position.
That was the last time. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we could end this right now, Johns.
Did you guys see, by the way the Texans? I'm sorry, Belabris. The way the Texans defended the Colts Hail Mary.
I did not see
No.
that.
Okay, so Anthony Richardson had a Hail Mary opportunity to beat the Texans, and they only rushed 3, but they actually had a rush plan. Like, they overloaded one side, they ran a stunt, and they sacked him instead of just kind of playing contain, worried that the quarterback's going to have a 60-yard touchdown run to win the game.
I will say that's pretty bad, though. If they only rushed 3 and you got sacked on a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
That's not good. I don't know. I think it was brilliant that they had them cover a running back who only had to run 65 yards for a touchdown with 7 defenders behind. But yeah,
I mean, if they wanted, yeah, I was gonna say if they wanted a more embarrassing way to lose, yeah, Austin Eckler running 60 yards, and if you look, there's 7 Bears defenders and only 5 Washington wide receivers down the field. That would have been it. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any fun facts, like actual fun?
Yeah, actually I do. So I was looking up Arizona Cardinals, this week's opponent. The Cardinals are allowing a 101.4 passer rating. That's 27th in the NFL. Opposing quarterbacks are completing 71% of their passes. That is 30th in the NFL. Arizona's pressure rate is 30th, according to Pro Football Focus. And their third down defense, remember the Bears were 2 for 12 on third down on Sunday. The Cardinals have the 32nd ranked third down defense in football.
So is this another? And this one just popped up in my timeline too. Maybe. Sorry, did you say sacks too?
Their sack rate is 27th in the league.
Yeah. Okay.
Sack rate, yes.
Yeah, because so is this another get right game for the offense after they got wrong for 3 quarters?
Okay, so I said this to Johnsy on our walk to the car, and you guys have probably talked about this, I'm sure, because I obviously listened to Monday's episode.
How slow our colleagues are walking behind us?
Oh my God, that was, oh man.
Name names.
Mark Potash, John Greenberg, and Pat Finley. We all carpool together, and they are slow walkers.
And Johns and I were not walking fast. We were walking at a normal pace. And suddenly we look up, and they are far away, deep in discussion.
At least 50 yards.
They're talking about baseball or something, not,
They probably were talking about baseball.
Those 3 were talking about baseball. Pat Finley noted, he drinks his beer fast and he walks slow. That's what we know about Pat Finley.
It's true.
He really drinks his beer slow. Or fast. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I said to Johns on this walk, as the two of us were far away from everybody else. We've covered bad coaching decisions. We've covered perceived discord. We've covered like bad losses, like coach after coach after coach after GM after GM after GM. Is the fact that this team has Caleb Williams, does that make this thing different? Now, I know it's a lot to put on a rookie, and there's only so much that he could overcome. And I think, Hoge, I'm sure you saw it, like when I was watching the All-22, I actually didn't think he was as bad as it seemed in the moment. I thought he just was off on a couple throws that he usually isn't. I had some questions about route concepts and some decisions not to call a timeout when your offensive linemen don't know the play with 1 minute 11 to go in the second quarter. So you have this that he's dealing with, but like the teams that we've covered that have had these problems haven't had the quarterback. And I just, again, is that putting too much on him? But that's just kind of this theory I've been floating around in my head this week that like maybe this team, obviously there's a lot of talent everywhere on the roster. So that could be the other reason this team can overcome some of these things. But maybe it's also the fact that they actually have a quarterback that might be able to do things that other quarterbacks haven't been able to do here in the past. What do you guys think of that?
I'm going to say history tells me no, because I do think Caleb Williams is a different quarterback than Justin Fields and significantly different from Mitch Trubisky. That said, like the investment made, the selection of those two quarterbacks, trading up for Mitch, trading up for Justin Fields, and all the draft capital that was parted with it, like didn't prevent the Bears from making changes around them, right? Didn't.
Well, I just meant I don't mean the changes won't come. I just mean that like Caleb Williams might be so good they might just win enough games to put themselves in position. Like I look at Arizona, like I just rattled off those defensive stats, right? Like I look at that game and be like, Caleb might just have a great game. And they might have poor play calls or poor late game coaching decisions, or they might not need to have poor late game coaching decisions because they'll win by 10 points because Caleb Williams throws 4 touchdowns. They just, again, I know I'm putting a lot on him, but I just wonder if he can, not alone because he's got the defense, but if he's the quarterback that can get them to 9 or 10 wins, even if the coaching staff isn't good enough.
Well, I mean, yes, theoretically that should be eventually what is happening, but and this is why Sunday's tough, because he did what he needed to do in the fourth quarter to take the lead. He also didn't do what he needed to do in the first, especially in the first half. I mean, I think if you're really watching that tape closely, you see a lot of things we saw earlier in the season, whether he was too amped up, too inaccurate, or the one thing I've learned this season, it seems like it's certainly not 100%, but I would say the majority of the communication problems they've had up front are probably related to a rookie quarterback. Now they seem to make progress with that before the bye. And then I thought Sunday was a step back. So theoretically what you're saying should be true, should be the case, but like the bottom line is the offense, whether it's Caleb or everybody else, did not do enough in the first 3 quarters to make that game be what you're talking about, where it really should not have even come down to the end like that.
I think where my concerns lie is, yes, you have the Cardinals coming up. Yes, you have the Patriots coming up, another bad team. But then you eventually have to play your own division. And the Bears division has been called the best in the league this year. The defenses are better. The quarterbacks are better. The competition from 1 to 11 on both sides of the ball will be better for the Bears. And I think that's where you need to see your coaching matter more, where you need to see your coaching help your young quarterback more, where you need to see, even on defense, not have questionable play calls that look questionable not only to the media and the fans watching, but also to your own players. I think when you get to the second half of the Bears schedule, where the teams are tougher, the players on the field are tougher, coaching matters more because you have this young quarterback who is learning, who is struggling at certain things, like we talked about in the first quarter, even against bad teams. That's where coaching has to come in and help its young quarterback. I think it has to matter when these games get tougher.
Yeah, and I think you guys I should say that as I've been floating this idea, I've ultimately come to the conclusion that I think he is physically gifted and talented enough to be that quarterback, but I think that's also too much for a rookie to overcome. In addition to his own challenges. I mean, I think Jahns, you and I said it during the game. There were I can think of two immediately. There might have been 3 times that Caleb Williams changed the play before, and whatever he changed it to did not work. It
No.
was bad. And now a lot of things go into that. We don't know exactly what went wrong in some of those plays, but you see him making the call at the line, you're thinking, okay, look at this rookie. He sees something, he's changing a play, it's good. And then whatever he changed it to, I'm still hung up on that minute 11 seconds left in the second quarter. Tevin Jenkins is looking at him with his hands up. Roshan Johnson's looking at him, and that's where somebody's got to call a timeout. They had 2 timeouts left. It was 3rd down. Where Caleb Williams got to call timeout.
Yeah.
Somebody has to bang that play. So because it turned into
your head coach has
15-yard
to see what's happening.
Somebody's got to see that.
Hear what's happening on his own headset.
And that's where I think that we can talk about Caleb all we want. He's a rookie. Maybe he should call timeout there. There seems to be some enormous in-game coaching process errors going on here. I mean, I don't know how you cannot see that. I don't know if there's too many people on the headset, not enough people on the headset, but it happened on offense to be in the first half and certainly on defense in the second half. What is the point of having a whole box of a suite full of coaches upstairs if they can't point out some of the stuff that we're seeing on television and you guys are seeing from the press box?
Yeah, I said to Jahns, this is the biggest coaching staff I've ever seen. They have a whole section in their media guide that tells you all the coaches that are in the booth. They have assistants to assistants to assistants on this staff.
Well, and it all gets funneled down to Matt Eberflus. All this information, and sometimes it's too much information, whatever. But you got to fix that process because there's too many in-game problems happening. Whether it's challenging the wrong plays, not challenging the other plays, not calling timeouts in situations where you should use your timeouts. And honestly, at this point in the season, it's been a theme. And I remember talking about this in the offseason with you guys. The first 2 years are kind of weird, especially the first year. They were not built to win. It was a rebuild. It was a teardown. There were moments last year where you were in competitive games, but really it wasn't until this year that it really felt like, okay, now they have the talent. Now they have everything in place. They're going to be in football games where we learn more about the coaching. We learn more about the process and how Matt Eberflus can handle that. And I don't know, through 7 games, at best, I'd give it a C- from what we've seen so far. So that needs to, like anything else, it can improve, but it needs to improve in a hurry here because you can't just be blowing out the Panthers and Jaguars every week and have this stuff not matter. If you're going to play in this division and if you're going to talk about playoffs, you think this stuff happening now matters in the middle of the season? Just wait till we get to these divisional games. And if they're lucky enough to get through that and make the playoffs, I have this fear that I've been thinking about the last 3 days. What's going to if this happened in week 8, what's going to happen, when we get the double doink season and shit like that goes down? What, you know what I mean? You think this is a crisis now. It just seems like it just, honestly, I'm being honest. They do not seem equipped for this right now. And so the coaching staff needs to get this stuff together in a hurry.
Kev, when you went through the film, watching every pass to Caleb Williams, take us through it. What did you like? What didn't you like? Was he really as bad as his stat line says he was?
Well, the reason I didn't think he was as bad as the stat line, Jahns, is, and maybe we're adjusting curves here, and working with other quarterbacks we've seen, it doesn't look like he's making the wrong read. Like he's throwing to the right guy. But what I saw in the first half, especially, was just inaccurate, just too high, too outside. There was a play on first down where he pump faked to Keenan Allen in the left flat. And it was a great play because he's going through his progressions. And the linebacker went that way. And Rome Odunze and Cole Kmet were both wide open over the middle of the field. And he made the exact right move, right play, and he threw it completely behind Odunze. Now, is Odunze supposed to have been a step in the I don't know.
Like, should he have
But-
settled or something like that?
Right. Like, dude, I don't know. But it was not a good throw based on where Odunze was. You know, third down, first quarter, Gerald Everett. Opportunity to finally make a play on third down. And Caleb Williams just took the step, boom, went right to him. Didn't think twice, too high. And so you saw things like that. You saw, I think it was later in the game, a third down where he got rid of it right away, deep downfield to Odunze. Odunze was running like essentially like a post, potentially. And Caleb went for the outside shoulder of the sideline. So something was off. We saw too many of those. But the fourth quarter, you saw some big plays, right? You know, you saw obviously the throw to DJ Moore, throw to Rome Odunze. Rome did kind of a out and in, and Caleb slid in the pocket to avoid pressure, saw it develop, hits Odunze. I mean, I thought Odunze had a great game. And then you saw issues with protection. And here's a question for you guys. Let me try to find the play here. Bears are backed up at their own goal line. I believe they have a second down. And both DeAndre Swift and Mercedes Lewis go out for routes. So your quarterback is dropping back to his end zone. You have a rookie left tackle who has never played in an NFL game on the offensive line. And you don't have any help. Swift and Mercedes Lewis both go out for routes.
Was this where he almost got tackled in the end zone?
Yes.
Like his knee was almost down as he was sort of in the grasp. Yeah.
Correct. And Clellan Ferrell beat Amagaji. And now you could see if you're
Colin
watching
Farrell or Cleland?
Yes.
Because Colin somehow is that
Clellan.
penguin guy in that show now. And I don't understand that. But
Good show.
Colin Farrell is very versatile. Yeah, like there's room for Caleb to move to his right and get a good throwing window. And there's no time. And that was a confusing play where it's like, why is neither of them gonna help? So I found it to be like there were rushed throws, as Hoge talked about. Like you felt like he was amped up, like didn't go through his reads all the time, and then fourth quarter made some big plays. So like I didn't come out of it like, oh my God, this guy can't read a defense. He has no idea what he's doing with the football. But you do wonder about these situations where he finds himself inaccurate. You worry because the offensive line, based on these injuries, is not going to get better right now.
How much do you think it was, him feeling pressure that was coming or wasn't there yet because of the banged up offensive line? Or at least in the early going, I think we talked about this on Monday, even when we were going to the car too, Kev, as everyone trailed behind us. Like I felt like he was just overly amped up for this game. And I think you saw it in some of the velocity and the lack of touch in some of his throws.
Yeah, you know, I was listening to a little bit of Kevin Byard's podcast yesterday, and he goes, that was a playoff atmosphere. He's like, that game felt like a playoff game. It's funny because he was talking to Jalen Jones, who's like, I've never been in a playoff game, so please tell me what that's like. And Byard's like, that like yesterday felt like a playoff game. And I do wonder if that atmosphere, you know, we always talk about that the moment has never seemed too big for Caleb Williams, but like maybe seeing how often, remember, so the Commanders had the highest blitz rate that any team has had against the Bears this season. So seeing that's coming, there was some exotic stunts that Dan Quinn was running up front. The mental clock might have been hurried. Eberflus said after the game that he didn't go through his progressions maybe as well as he has. I think Cole Kmet said after the game that like the coverage was very tight, and you can see that on tape. Like you can see how well the Commanders are covering some of these guys. And then and then you have the offensive line. But like that's the thing is like moving forward, like this offensive line is going to get worse because you got these guys hurt. Like, you know, in Star Wars, the like the Obi-Wan Kenobi, your only hope moment. Ryan Bates, you're the only hope. like if Tevin Jenkins, like they need Ryan Bates. Like, you know, after London, you're kind of like, oh wow, like offensive line's playing well. Ryan Bates, when he gets back, he and Larry Borum will give them some nice depth. They can trade Nate Davis away. And now you got Bill Murray on IR. Who knows if Tevin Jenkins can be able to go this week? Like, you need Ryan Bates. Like, you need him to not only be ready to go, but possibly be able to start and play at a high level.
You also need Montez Sweat to be healthy.
Yes.
Speaking of injuries.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the case all season. Like, I think he's already been battling since training camp. And unfortunately, it seems like that's going to continue. All right, Kevin. Wow, that was depressing, but thank you.
Not you. It's just that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you guys know
Mary
that
losses.
the Bears had not given up a walk-off touchdown as time expired since at least 1970?
We could end the show, Adam.
Yeah, I mean,
Guys, we saw
surprising.
history on Sunday. History.
Like, even like an overtime?
Overtime, no, not overtime, just regulation.
Oh, okay.
Like a walk-off touchdown at the end of regulation.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much, Kevin. Enjoy your day at Hallis Hall. And I'll talk to you later.
See ya.
There's Kevin Fishbain. You can follow him on Twitter at KFishbain and read him in The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. All right, we got to get out of here. I got to go talk more about this team. After
It's an interesting week, man.
It is. Today will be interesting. So
We've had a lot of these interesting weeks.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm saying that a lot this year.
Well, that means the team's interesting. That's good. And we appreciate everybody watching and listening along the way. But the contrast between the vibes in London and coming home from London to what happened on Sunday could not be more opposite. And man, they were this close, John. They were this close from us just having, I don't know if it would have been a normal week, but it would have been a much different week.
Oh, the vibes would have been a lot different.
Yeah. So
you would be talking about, I know you got to run. You'd be talking about a Caleb Williams game-winning drive.
We would be, but maybe I don't know. Maybe we should have talked about this more. I wonder if that would have masked a lot of this other stuff that we're talking about. Because the second to last play still happens, even if the Hail Mary falls incomplete.
True.
There's still the same questions about what the hell was going on there. You could still say the same thing about, you know, there's a world in which you're still questioning why they only rushed 3 on the Hail Mary, what TJ Edwards was doing. Tyreek Stevenson wasn't paying attention, but because it's a Hail Mary, the ball just fell incomplete because it's a low percentage play anyway. I wonder what that conversation would all been like, because all those things would still been on the table. The handoff to Doug Kramer still happened. What Kevin just brought up about how they protected Caleb Williams in his own end zone still happened. The communications issue in the first half. So, you know what I mean? So, like, I don't want to say that it was a good thing they lost, because you never want to lose. But there's a lot of shit that still needed to be addressed here.
Yeah. You would have probably more defiance, more to spin it or bring it back to what we talked about at the beginning. Maybe less willingness to accept some of the faults that happened.
Does Kevin Byard say what he says to Matt Eberflus on Monday? Because that wasn't about the Hail Mary. That was about the play before. You know what I mean? Like, and so sometimes losing brings out hard truths that need to be addressed to get better. And honestly, sometimes winning covers up some of the stink that still exists. So we'll see how they bounce back. Wednesday edition at Hallis Hall later today. Matt Eberflus speaks. Caleb Williams speaks. By the time you're listening to this, that may have already happened. We will cover it all on Friday's preview episode. Bears and Cardinals, another winnable game for all the reasons Kevin mentioned. Maybe another right matchup for the offense to get back up and running. And I would honestly say when you look at the schedule, they need to win these next 2 games. They need to beat the Cardinals, and they sure as hell need to beat the Patriots at home. That'll do it for us. Make sure you're following Jahnsy at Adam Jahns, myself at Adam Hoge. And check out hoganjahns.com. All the merch and a lot more there. We will talk to you on Friday.
See ya.